Welcome to the Nausea River podcast. I'm Theo Morgan, and I'm recovering from really bad tonsillitis. We'll be back to better intros when I can swallow properly again.
All right. So I guess to start, introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Squallie Greenthumb. I am the answer to the age-old question, what if, damn it, I had a thing. And I just fucking lost it. Oh, yeah. What if Amigo the Devil was a juggalo? It's me.
Meet Squallie Greenthumb. He dropped into my inbox with an episode pitch in a Stoner Doom EP to benefit the greater good. I said I did my research, but really, I had no idea what I was in for with the multi-genre eccentric. Enjoyed the episode, and don't worry about me. I have a lot of chronic throat issues, and Squallie shared some advice about avoiding dry mouth. We'll be good.
And what do you mean by that? And by that, I mean, I'm not that familiar with Amigo the Devil, so.
Okay. All right. So Amigo the Devil he's a folk artist. He does a lot of murder ballads. And when I first started making music, that's kind of what I was known for. And I still write murder ballads now and again, but mine are a little more cartoony and schlocky, and his are like very emotional and like actually make you feel something instead of being all like, oh, ha, he loved her, then he killed her, ha ha, like my songs end up being. And I blame that on the fact that I grew up on ICP, so everything I do is a little more cartoony than most people.
Okay. I'm not gonna say like I pegged you as a juggalo, but there is some of that. I can see some of that mentality.
Yeah, of course.
And also in the good way, because like ICP fans are generally really chill.
Yeah, we
Never
can
met
be.
one. I've never met like I haven't met like tons, but it was a much bigger thing when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember them being like a lot of the more accepting people.
Well, and that's the thing.
Mhm.
That's part of what I do. Because I I refer to myself as genre fluid.
Mhm.
I am not withholden to one type of music. I don't listen to one type of music. I've never listened to one type of music. And when I was a kid, that was the quickest way to not have any friends,
Mhm.
because they're like, oh, you're our friend because you listen to Pantera. And I'm like, yeah, also, did you check out the new Master P album? And they're like, oh, okay, bye. But the thing with Juggalos is like the one thing that unites us is we love ICP, but we all have our own interests, both musically and like with everything else. But that brings us together. And so, it's rare that you meet another Juggalo who's like exactly like you. Whereas you'll
Mhm.
in punk, metal, hip hop, most other like subgenres and subcultures, there is a lot of like you're gonna meet people that are almost exactly the same as you.
Mhm.
So it really brings like a wide spectrum. And despite there being if you go back into ICP's older stuff, there is a lot of like homophobic shit. But these
Mhm.
days, when I go to ICP shows, there's, openly gay people, trans people, and nobody shits on them. And if one person does, it's over. Like, like
Mhm.
they get jumped. So even with like that past, as we've like moved into the present, it's really become one of the, again, more accepting, more open subcultures out there.
Yeah, they also seemed above the whole like rap versus rock and rap versus metal wars. The most
Yeah,
important things back when you were 13 and on the internet.
exactly. They incorporated like distorted guitars into their songs before the rap metal boom kind of happened.
Hmm.
Um, Not long before, but definitely like it was, you had your, Aerosmith and Run DMC and like Public Enemy and Anthrax, and then nothing for a while. And then ICP was rapping over guitars. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, new metal and rap metal and all that came. So, yeah.
All right. So you sent me your upcoming EP.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it. It's definitely very stoner doom.
Mm-hmm.
Very, like I'd say even pretty typical for the genre, but how do you describe some of your other music then?
So basically, you know, everything I do, I do kind of fall into the tropes of whatever genre I'm trying to do, because it's one of the things about being a jack of all trades, you are a master of none. So really what I do is, you know, I did the Stoner Doom record. Last month's EP was hip hop and R&B. And before that, I did like right after David Lynch died, I put out an EP of just like songs that sound like they would have played, you know, in Twin Peaks: The Return, when he was having like, you know, the Chromatics and Nine Inch Nails and stuff, ending the episodes at the Roadhouse. Basically, everything I do is I listen to something or I see something and I go, oh, that I like this. I need to do it. And that's kind of how I've been with a lot of things in my life. I when I see something cool and interesting, I have that urge. And, you know, as I was finishing up working on that hip hop EP, Ozzy died. And I was like, okay, maybe next record will be, you know, I'll go back to doom metal, but I already kind of did. I did a doom metal EP earlier this year in April. I did like my first attempt at writing a song that was over like 9 minutes long. And it was, you know, it was okay. I was kind of happy with it, but I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to that, because, you know, part of the goal this year is, you know, put out an EP every month in a different genre and use it to raise money for charity. It's something that I did in 2020, but in 2020, I more like jumped around it within genres in each EP. Like, you would listen to it. The first song would be doom metal. The next would be industrial, maybe a rap song, maybe a punk, whatever. This time around, I wanted it to be a like cohesive thing where it's like, hey, you like this type of music? Like, this is my album that I made that you might be into. But yeah, so I was toying with it and I was like, maybe I won't do doom metal. And then I went to Summer Gloom and
Oh, okay.
And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm not doing that. Especially like that Tears from a Grieving Heart set really just, I was like, okay, I need to figure this shit out, because, you know, part of jumping around in genres and studying other musicians and stuff, I see shit and I hear shit where I'm like, I could do that. Like, with enough practice, I could do that. Or, you know, maybe I am equipped already to do that. What Tears for a Grieving Heart does, I don't understand. It's actual magic to me. I'm like, I know that's a guitar. I know that's a bass. I know that's drums, but I've never heard them sound like that. So
Interesting. Like,
yeah.
so have you never like dipped your feet into the funeral doom subgenre, or something like unique to them?
It's that it's unique to them, because
Okay.
I've listened to funeral doom before, like, you know, like Bell Witch, a lot of fucking Bell Witch, and, you know, Mournful Congregation and stuff like that. And it does all have its own sound, but I feel, but again, that stuff I hear and I feel like with enough practice, I could do this. With enough patience, I could do this. And when I listen to them, I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea how I would pull that off.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing. I have no musical knowledge, so it is all a mystery to me. I think one, I'm gonna have to like clip this and send it to them because they're my like my four best friends.
Okay, so that's all right. So here's the thing, and you can totally do
But I
that.
think, yeah, and also like I think you're on the money about it seeming kind of hard to crack because you'd think that something like so slow could be like really simple, but
Mhm.
like one you have a lot less to work with because you can't mask it by being fast. And two,
Mhm.
knowing those four, they are none of them are amateurs. They've all been making music in some capacity for like a decade.
Mhm. Yeah, and the so I got into I found out about them uh after finding out about Lunar Arc.
Okay.
Um and so here's like the dominoes falling. So
Okay.
back in 2019, I started doing this thing where I realized that so I've been playing music in and around Boston and making music for about 18 years now. And I started in like in a punk band, and I did the solo acoustic thing alongside that punk band, and then I was in a folk band, and that was like 7 years of my life was that. And I was in a we were in our bubble. It's all the same bands, all the same people at the shows and all that stuff. And there was one day in 2019 where I was like, I still only go see the new bands of my friends that I made through playing music years ago. They all have new band. I go to their shows. Every show I go to that's like small, local thing, I know everybody. And then I went to see my friend Daphne Blue Underworld play a show at O'Brien's, and she was the only person I knew there. She was the only band that I knew there. And she was like busy the rest of the night because she had a bunch of friends. Like we talked, but then she kind of went and talked to her other friends, and I stood there in O'Brien's for the first time ever, like just a fan. Like nobody except for Daphne knew that I was a musician. Nobody knew about my bands. Nobody cared about anything. And it felt good because it had been 7 years since I had experienced that. When I first started going to punk shows, nobody knew me, and I was just there watching the bands. And I kind of lost that because you're watching the band, your friend wants to show you something, somebody comes in, hasn't seen you in a while, they want to catch up. And I love my friends, but I had kind of lost that magic with local music. And I watched these bands and they're amazing. And one of them was Thrust Club. And I fell in love with Thrust Club. And years later, they like shared something about Lunar Arc. I checked them out and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I wanted to go see them play Tears for Grieving Hearts record release show, but I had something that night. But I was like, oh, here's this band playing with Lunar Arc. Let me check them out. And I was like, holy shit. And I've seen them a couple times. I listened to them quite a bit, but I like part of me still wants to maintain that like distant, like keep it magical, keep it like distant. Like I'm watching this band that I love. Like every time I've seen them, I've gone up to like all the members individually, been like, hey, fucking amazing set, like great. But I wasn't like, hey, I'm Squallie Greenthumb, I also play music, want to play a show together? Like, I just leave it at that. So by all means play that clip for them. But yeah, I do love that this is a local band that I just am in awe of. It's a
Yeah,
good feeling to have.
they're definitely doing something unique in the area.
Yeah.
Because they're just like I don't think there's really any place on Earth that has like a concentrated funeral doom scene.
If there is, I want to go there
I
just
know,
like
me too.
just to see what that's like.
Yeah. So I didn't really know much about how extensive your history in Boston was. And like I know, sorry, but apologies for the dog.
No, do not apologize.
Do
I
not
have a Chihuahua
apologize.
too. He's laying down somewhere, but I might get him later. I fucking love
Oh,
Chihuahuas. They're the
yeah.
greatest
I
thing.
have two of them, but one of them is too polite to come up here. This
Oh.
one's my younger one, Churro.
Oh, hi, Churro.
Aw.
Hi. Yeah, we have
So
uh
he's I'm just gonna let him sleep in my lap. He, anyways, so like I know a lot of people in the
Mhm,
I know a lot of Boston musicians, but
mhm,
you know, I'm a metal person,
mhm.
especially when it comes to like local people. I just know metalheads, and while there are definitely a lot of people who will dabble in other genres, like I'd say they generally stick to to what they're good at,
Mhm.
and they stick to metal. Do you like what does your place in local music feel like as someone who switches around a lot?
So, I do like I have my friends that, I play shows with and go to their shows often, and we have our own little collective, and we're all very different. So one of my closest friends in music is Aria from Coffin Salesman, who's going to be playing Doom and Grill this year.
Oh,
And they are not a metal band by any
hmm.
means, but there is a doominess to their music, and I agree that they belong on that bill. So it's like my main crew is kind of like Coffin Salesman, this band Your Friends in Hell, who is they also write like spooky horror movie music, but they have an even lighter and cartoonier appeal to it, where it doesn't feel evil at all, but it's like if you're into spooky shit, you like them. And then there's Thou Merciless Graves, which is kind of undescribable. They're just like nautical fucking zone out music. I really don't know how else to describe them, but they're amazing. And we play these shows together. And when I play shows, when I get booked on a show, um, you know, people don't know what they're booking. I will come and play something completely different every time. I played 3 shows in August, and there was only one song that I played in each set because it fit. But everything was like completely different, different styles, different subject matter. And the people that come see me enjoy that about me, where they're like, they're like, I see Squallie Greenthumb on a flyer. I have no fucking clue what I'm getting. And that's great. And, I do love that. Part of me would like to expand a little more. I would like to eventually someday get a band together to back me up, because I do play my doom metal songs solo, just like me, my guitar, a pedal board. And, I do kind of cut down versions of them, because, I don't get to have like cool drum fills or
Yeah.
anything happening. And that's very enjoyable. And I would like to do that as a full band, play a show with other metal bands. But I'm also a big fucking homebody. And, like I said, I have this Chihuahua. I also have a cat and a girlfriend, and I like spending time with them more than anything else in the fucking world. So when I have a night to do that, because I work nights a lot, when I have a night to do that, I'll usually choose that over going to a show or booking a show. So we'll see. We'll see what
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah, and I mean, at least the playing part, that's also work.
It is. It is. And also like putting this record together, my newest record together, like in a month where I had 3 shows, was the most work, because again, I played 3 completely different sets. I had to practice 3 completely different things, also while writing and recording this, also while having a job and trying to spend time with my little family here. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a
No,
lot.
I really respect that.
I mean, once 2026 hits and I'm done with this monthly charity record thing, maybe that'll be the time I like pull a band together, because I won't be so like hyper focused on the creation.
Hmm.
But I like focusing on creation. That's the other thing is, I realized in 2020 when I did this the first time around, I realized that when it comes to music, I care about the songwriting, the recording process a lot more than I care about the live shows. And, you know, I had a lot of friends, and no shade at them. They love performing, and they couldn't perform, and it was driving them crazy. And I was like, just make music. And they're like, that's not we made our songs. Now we play them. I'm like, every idea I have has to be fleshed out, or I drive myself fucking crazy. So
yeah. And you're not getting drink tickets at home.
no, but I do have a fridge full of pumpkin heads. So
Oh, yeah, I can't drink anymore, but definitely used to suck a few of those back every autumn. Um, anyways, but anyways, for the main event here, you are doing this project for charity, and specifically for the Last Prisoner project. And
so that was last month.
That was last month. Oh no, your Instagram's like so out of date then.
Oh no, it's I'm sorry. So I released a new record on Bandcamp Friday, so I'm going to be releasing it tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But I keep the same charity up until I release the new record, and then it's a new charity each time.
Okay, so which one's this?
So this one is going to be, hold on, I gotta look at the exact name because I always fuck these up. It's for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a lot of the charities that I pick. It's either something that is very urgent, like right now, which happened a lot in 2020, as you remember. And so that was a thing. And so, you know, my last record, I was all about, you know, the way being a pothead used to be, because I work at a dispensary now, and I realized like it's I already knew it changed a lot because I've been buying weed in stores for a very long time, but like being the bud tender and realizing that I don't have the same power that my dime bag dealer in Harvard Square did in like 2000, like it fucked with me. So I made a record about it. And because I was making a record about comparing being a bud tender to being a street dealer, I was like, well, this clearly needs to go to the Last Prisoner project, which is trying to get all cannabis prisoners out of jail because they shouldn't fucking be there. And then with this record, I chose the Palestinian Children's Charity because metal has kind of taken the reins on the Gaza situation as far as like I don't hear, like, I don't see the punk bands that I grew up knowing, or even like younger punk bands that I check out. I don't see them talking about it, which is weird because, you know, punk has always been very political, and they usually take a stand on something. And that's how I learned to make music for charity, was being in punk bands. But I'm like, it's the metal bands that are doing this. I'm playing in this genre. I agree, you know, so I'm like, let's go with that. Let's go with, you know, what this has been representing. Also, just stoner doom is inherently Middle Eastern, like,
that's
know.
an interest that's actually like an interesting take on stoner doom I've never heard, like outside of a band that's really obviously Middle Eastern inspired, like Ohm.
Yeah, so like for me, it's because of the psychedelic element. A lot of psychedelic music was based on like Middle Eastern shit. Like you hear psychedelic records, you hear a sitar in it, right? Like so, and on top of that, I remember years and years ago, I read Lenny Bruce's autobiography, and he was talking about when he started smoking hash, he started like, he like kind of started dressing in like Middle Eastern garb and all that. And I thought it was strange at the time because, you know, when I was a kid, when kids started smoking weed, they, you know, started wearing FUBU and talking in a black accent. And I was like, yeah, no, weed's like a hip hop thing. But then like, I realized I'm like, it's the same thing. Like it's, you know, he did something that he got from a certain culture, and he started like, you know, he started mirroring that within himself. And also just like, The first track on this record, Dead Resin,
Mm-hmm.
I uh my friend Aria from Coffin Salesman, he bought a banjo the other day, just like a week ago. And he like sent me a video of him playing it because the first thing he played when he picked it up was like accidentally one of my songs. He was just messing around and he realized it's one of my songs and he sent it to me. And I had this section of a song where I was like, I don't know what to put here. I don't want to write another verse. I've kind of run out of all my tricks as it comes to like lead guitar playing. I'm not that good. So I don't know what to do. And then I was like, hey, how about you play banjo over it? That would be interesting. And then he sends it to me and it sounds like a fucking sitar. And I'm like, how'd you do that? And he was just like, bro, I'm Middle Eastern. I'm like, right, okay. So that also got me thinking, I'm like, this is clearly all of this is speaking to let's raise money for Palestine.
Yeah, and I think as long as the money gets to the right place, it doesn't really matter what genre you're doing. But you
Exactly.
do bring up a good point, and I thought it was just me not really knowing much about, not really being involved in punk and hardcore. Like, if anything, like the hardcore bands I like, I know because they just play with metal bands.
Mm-hmm.
Or like with a band like Unhinged from Boston, it's because like they share members with a metal band.
Mm-hmm.
And I know talks about Unhinged does a lot of stuff for Palestine, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll mention it on stage. But maybe that does come from the metal side of them.
Yeah.
But you do it. It did make me realize maybe it's just that I do have a lot of metalhead friends, but they are definitely like the loudest voices, not just for Palestine, but like against ICE and against fascism and again and like for a lot of the pressing social issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely find like non-metal voices focusing on that, but they're like people who I kind of knew because of their activism.
Right.
Like like clearly they have eyes so they can see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But
And go ahead.
no, actually, you go.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a yapper, so I feel like
No,
sometimes I'm taking over.
no, I love guests who can yap.
Okay, good. So the thing is, a lot of my friends who are not punk musicians, but are like fans of punk, like consider themselves punks,
Hmm.
like first and foremost, like I consider myself a juggalo first and foremost.
Hmm.
They are like, they are very loud voices. They are constantly, speaking on it and, did a lot to inform me, of, cause, I always, fell for it's too complicated. And I was like, you're probably right. And, just
Hmm.
like went about my business, but they really informed me. But it's the bands. It's like the musicians, the bands
Yeah.
that I knew who, wrote all the fucking anti-Bush anthems,
Hmm.
in the early 2000s and, spoke on so much throughout the years. And, I don't see them hanging Palestinian flags from their amps, but I
Hmm.
see metal bands doing it.
Yes. A lot of metal.
Yeah.
It's definitely in the Boston area. I think there is
Mhm.
probably some influence from, this area being more left-leaning in general from
Oh,
the
of course.
colleges.
Hmm. Left
And I say
leaning in
that, and like
general.
some people will say like college activists like it's a bad thing, but I wish I had that energy when I was 21
Me
instead of
too.
just like instead of just like drinking alone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, me too. I was actually, when I was that age, I was actually like, okay, enough. Like, enough. Like, I get it. Like, I agree, but like, shut up. And now I'm like, no, everybody needs to be louder. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy to it's easy like metal's kind of a two-edged sword because it's something I've had to grapple with because there is something political in a lot of metal, but it doesn't feel inherent to the genre. And it feels like there are a lot of ways to just that tempts you to turn your brain off, especially because lyrical content and like is on in bands and definitely including your work, like doesn't necessarily doesn't like, I guess to use like a negative word, preach to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And and that's a thing with me. I've tried to write preachy political songs before, because there have been times where I felt bad that I am putting out these records. I am selling them for charity. Every dollar goes to charity, but my songs have nothing to do with like what I'm standing up for or anything. And there were times where I'm like, maybe I should. And every time I do, it's not good. I can't write about it. I cannot write about it. I cannot preach about it. I can't speak on it even that much, because it doesn't work in my mouth, but I believe it. And, I will take, what little money I make off of music and give it to the causes I believe in. Which, is something I learned when I was in my folk band. We weren't a folk punk band, but we were a folk band made up of people who met at a punk show. So we ended up on a lot of punk shows, and we would end up playing with bands we grew up idolizing, that we never thought we'd share a stage with. And we would share a stage with them because of a charity gig. Like, there was, I feel bad that I can't remember the exact specifics, but there was a tragedy where like 2 Worcester firefighters lost their lives. And my friend Mark put together this show, and he brought, national touring acts that are local to Boston, but like huge. And he got bands that had broken up years ago to reunite for it. And then he throws us on it. And it was a great experience, great night. We're living our fucking dream. And then we step outside and we turn around and we look at the marquee and it says, we've raised $20,000. And I'm like, it was the best feeling in the world. So, for years I would release music and, use the money, like, wait until I made enough money to, buy an obscene amount of Chinese food and eat that. And that was my celebration of that. I made this album. I put this out there and people listened to it. But eventually I was like, this would be a lot better in somebody else's hands, somebody who truly needs it. And that's when, there are times where I'm extremely broke and I'm like, hey, I just put out a record. The money goes to me just because I need it. But like, for the most part, if I'm releasing something, there's a charity attached, and it feels a lot better than that obscene amount of Chinese food.
Yeah. So I guess out of this year's causes, we've mentioned 2 of them, but like, is there another that you think more people should know about?
More people should know about. I mean, all of them, honestly. I started out the year mostly focusing on trans and queer causes, because that was the first fear when Trump got elected, right? Was that. So I was focusing a lot more on that. Trans Resistance Mass is probably my favorite charity that I've given to, just for like how much they do and how active they truly are. I also gave money to Food Not Bombs, who, they set up every weekend. They set up in like the Cambridge Common and out in Waltham, and I think Roxbury as
Roxbury.
well.
I was going to bring them up if you didn't.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm familiar with the Cambridge one because I grew up hanging out in Harvard Square, but raising money for them because I mean, they've just always been, on top of feeding the homeless, which is also very fucking important. They've also always had a side cause that they were working towards. So those 2 I say would be the ones that I want the most spotlight on.
Yeah. And with Food Not Bombs, like if you're in the Boston area, you've probably seen them with their boots on the ground. It's not as abstract,
And that same thing with Trans Resistance Mass. They
Mm-hmm.
were when I picked them for my charity, they were like, you know, it was winter and they were out. Like they were out doing shit, you know, like they weren't waiting until it was nice out to
Mm-hmm.
fucking protest, right? They were there and I was like, here you go, whatever I can get you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm less familiar with them, which
Mm.
is, no, it's an oversight on my part. I got a lot of trans friends, which I feel also comes with metal,
Yeah.
especially especially these days.
It
Um,
honestly comes with all music at this point, which is a
mhm.
good thing.
Yeah,
That sounded very cynical,
I
but
think
it's
yeah. Well, I think it speaks highly of the trans community that like so many of them are creatives
mm-hmm.
and are very unafraid about pushing the envelope on music.
Oh yeah.
It's like else if I was to say like the scene that seems to have the most like politically active, like not just like in terms of like social media, but in terms of like where their money is going, why they have shows, like
Mm-hmm.
it is like it is like trans femme noise artists.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as it should be. I think, I think a lot, I mean, the as time goes on and history becomes less of a mystery, we're learning that so much of what we have and what we love are from trans folk, queer folk, and that just was like erased years ago, right? It was
Hmm.
just like no, like no, Chuck Berry invented rock and roll, like like shit like that, right?
Hmm.
And uh or just like historically, these two women were very close friends, like shit like
Yeah.
that, right? So as we uncover more and more of that, uh I think, I hope it's part of what is like pushing more and more trans and queer acts to be out and doing their thing. I like legitimately, uh during that time in 2019 where I was trying to see more bands that I didn't know, I went to a show at O'Brien's that my friend Roz was playing. They're in a band now called Nova One, but when I first met them, they were in a band called Roz and the Rice Cakes, and they played with my folk band a whole bunch. And I went to their show. It was on Valentine's Day, and I knew them, but when they were on stage, I got to be a fan again, right? Like I was saying before, like nobody else knew me,
Hmm.
nobody was talking to me. And I'm standing there and watching them, and Roz goes, so in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be dropping probably the queerest album I've ever dropped. And the room like explodes in like cheer. And I, my first thought was, my first thought was, if she had said that at one of the shows we played 5 years ago, it would have gone over like a lead fucking balloon, even though all those people at those shows that I still talk to have, gotten their head together about like, trans and queer identities and stuff, where we were a little ignorant before because we're all just a bunch of cishet dudes in our own little bubble.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, that would have gone over like a lead balloon. And I'm like, this is officially not like a like a white man's world anymore in a good way.
Hmm.
Like it's like this entire room is, I am the token straight in this fucking room. And that's a great thing, like
Yeah, because like there have been times where, having been in metal for a while, it's
mm-hmm.
there like in the 2000s, it was definitely a lot more meat-headed in certain parts.
Of
And I think
course.
but I think that could have been a symptom of me being young, talking to other people close enough to my age.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lost touch with a lot of those people, but I want to hope that like, I've had to unlearn some pretty, some stuff that was common, but not true,
Mm-hmm.
toxic, like stuff that, stuff like at the very least, like I don't know what I'm gonna say with that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think it's a lot better like talking to people, people in their 20s and 30s who I guess who have incentive to be better people
Mm-hmm.
and not just be edgelords online in an anonymous group.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because there's
absolutely.
also there's also a lot of that in really knowing metalheads in real life. So
Mm-hmm.
I took to the internet, and we don't always send our best.
No, no, absolutely not. Yeah, the more I realize like that as much of people's like real problems in personality like and problematic personalities come out on the internet, the more I realize that the internet still isn't real, the better headspace I'm in.
Hmm.
Which, would happen a lot more if I went out more. But again, I just want to stay home and with my dog and my cat and my girlfriend and watch Breaking Bad. Like, leave me alone, guys. I'll go to your next show.
Yeah, it's always the Breaking Bad rewatch.
It's her first time watching it and it's
Oh my
great.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could watch Breaking Bad for the first time again.
Yeah, seeing her watch it for the first time is great. We started with Better Call Saul because
Huh.
I had never seen Better Call Saul and I was watching it and she came in and she like started watching it and she got into it. And then we were about to get into season 6 and I'm like, okay, I heard season 6 like plays alongside Breaking Bad. So we have an option here. Either you can watch this and have Breaking Bad spoiled for you, or we keep this going and we hop on Breaking Bad. She was like, yeah, let's do that. And just, I'm like, okay, you asked for it. And just like watching her go through it, all the emotions
Hmm.
and, questioning herself every day why she's still rooting for Walter White. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And like you don't hear too many people watching Better Call Saul and then Breaking Bad
Hmm.
because like I feel like the Better Call Saul fan base like was kind of confined to people who really liked Breaking Bad.
Hmm.
So like of course you've seen it before.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think I've always wanted someone's perspective on that, like what it's like to do it the other way around.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
otherwise, Better Call Saul is just like it's a great show, but it's kind of just a show about a struggling lawyer.
It is. And it's like it follows a lot of the same beats, but nowhere near to the extreme
Hmm.
that Breaking Bad does, obviously. And like just like when we first see Saul in Breaking Bad and she sees him and he's like sexually harassing his receptionist and all this stuff and he's like fat and balding and because they hadn't really figured out the character yet
Yeah.
and she's like, okay, so him and Kim probably break up at some point, right? I'm like, yes. There is no Kim. So it has been great. And she's like, the first season she's like I want Jimmy and Mike and I'm like, they're coming, just relax. Like she's like, this is great. She's like, I love Jesse. I love this is awesome, but like where are they? I'm like, they're coming, don't worry.
Yeah, that I think like the specific moment, like one specific moment I like to like relive for the first time in Breaking Bad is when they first introduced Mike. It's just like you have so many questions on your mind about that man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which admittedly she did miss out on because she knows about Mike, but
Yeah.
she also was like, what's with this guy in the fucking toll booth at the at the parking garage, because that's
Yeah.
where he first shows up.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, it's kind of weird like praising Better Call Saul as a series because like I don't know how much of it holds up independently because it does feel like it does lean on some Easter eggs for
Hmm.
fans.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, thankfully with the skeleton of a very compelling story, but I don't know, it's not a perspective I'll ever have, and
Hmm.
I'm glad I watched Breaking Bad when I did.
Oh yeah.
Like I think the series had just ended and everyone at my new job was hyping it up and I'm like, Dad. because I was living with my parents at the time, and
Gotcha.
I got my dad on the train to watch it. Like we watched it for the first time together. It's our big bonding experience.
That's awesome. That's a great way to bond. I
Yeah.
I I didn't start watching it until season 4 because every time I heard about it, I'm like, this is just the plot of Weeds, but with a dude and meth. Because I had watched Weeds, and it's, woman, single mother,
Hmm.
dead husband. She needs to raise money. She starts selling drugs.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, it's the same. And everybody's like, nope, nope, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I went through this breakup and spent like, a month just binging the entirety of Hulu in bed. And when I was done with Community, I was like, all right, I'll check out this Breaking Bad, whatever. And then I was like, oh shit.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the point about Weeds is interesting because, like, there are undoubtedly many people who watch that show
Hmm.
who partake in weed.
Hmm.
I don't think there are that many meth heads watching Breaking Bad.
There are not. I have done meth once. They say not even once, but I did, and I'll never do it again.
Okay.
But I do see, like, I do get flashbacks sometimes just to
Okay.
that one night where it just happened, and I was like, okay, but it's accurate. It's very accurate.
Okay. I've never even like I've never even talked to anyone who like did it once and then
Yeah.
watched Breaking Bad. Um,
Well, when I was a kid, it wasn't meth, it was crystal, and all the ravers did it so they could dance all
oh,
night. And I was like, I'm not a raver, but I detest sleep. Um, and I already was like, I was already big into like, like snorting Adderall and shit.
okay.
And somebody offered it to me one night. I'm like, oh, the strongest version? Sure. And then I regretted it.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound fun.
No, no. No, no.
Yeah, that's your PSA,
That's
kids.
my
Like
PSA.
like
Just do Adderall. It's fine.
yeah, just like I know 90% of my audience is some level of pothead.
Yeah.
Um, Even if I was against it, I don't think I could convince them. I can't convince people don't do math.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very bad, in fact.
Hmm.
And dental bills, even if you're just a normal person, can cost tens of thousands. Ask me how I know. Um, you don't want meth mouth.
No, no, no.
You
Nobody
don't even
wants.
want anything that I was never a big weed user, but I think my big fear is like I have like I had some very severe dental damage for other reasons, and
Hmm.
getting cotton mouth like always kind of freaked me out. It's just like, oh, it's gonna happen even more.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Drink your water, people.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. Stay hydrated. I don't know like surefire ways to like increase saliva production besides like smelling something really good, but
Yeah.
you can only do that. You can only do that for so long before you become numb to it.
That straight up is one of my biggest pet peeves because I actually I do stay hydrated as much as I
Hmm.
can. I had an experience when I was a child at Canopy Lake where my mom like fainted from dehydration. Found out years later that she was also on her period, but like I didn't
Hmm.
understand that because I was like 8. Um, and like seeing that happen, I carry water with me everywhere. Like I've had people like completely lose their shit on me because I don't go anywhere without a water bottle, which is a strange thing, but for some reason it pisses some people off.
I've never heard that. That's
It
crazy.
it's just I don't know. They just think it's weird that I like always have a bottle in my hand or like on my backpack or something. But either way, I try and stay hydrated. Even when I'm not stoned, I often just
Hmm.
have dry mouth. And no matter how much water I drink, and I try and hold it in my mouth and be like, just absorb it. Just fucking absorb. And nothing. The only thing that helped me was um, I got really addicted to Trident watermelon rush gum or whatever the fuck it's called. It's watermelon something, watermelon splash, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Fruity Trident gum will keep your mouth full of saliva. It
Yeah,
is It's made for it.
That's interesting because like I feel like one of the big culprits of dry mouth for me is that I do chew a lot of gum, but
Really?
it's always the minty stuff.
That'll fuck you up.
It's always
Yeah.
spearmint.
Yeah. I'll do it.
Um, that's interesting. I don't think like I thought it was maybe like because the xylitol or something, which
Yeah, no,
I think the fruity gums have because it's one of those. It's a weird sweetener because like no one else seems to be able to taste it but me. Um, but it has this kind of like tingly acidicness to it.
right. Right.
And someone's gonna say that's the stupidest thing I've heard.
No,
But
no.
um, like it's weird because like when it comes to other sweeteners, like everyone's like, I hate stevia. It tastes so obvious. I'm like, grow up. Grow up. Like, yeah, I'd use like my mom had a big stevia kick for a while, so I ended up using it to like sweeten tea all the time.
Gotcha.
I'm like, I don't know, it's fine.
Gotcha.
But
You are correct in that I don't taste xylitol and gum, but I had a friend who went keto for a while and he like fed me like this keto funfetti cake. And he's like, dude, it's like, you won't believe it. It's like 2 carbs. It's crazy. And that was when I finally tasted xylitol because I think that slice of cake probably had 10 times the amount that a piece of gum does. Like it was
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, and like it's also something I have to be very careful about because of my dogs.
Uh-huh.
I've never and like just because I find it to be like a very noticeable and vaguely maybe not unpleasant in the context of gum, but that cake sounds wretched. I can't lie.
It was
Like
awful.
I'm gonna be real with you, ketoers. What did sucralose do to you? Sucralose, like I can't really taste sucralose. It's it's sweet.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let
Um,
ketos be keto. They'll figure it out eventually.
all right. So besides the AP you're releasing, which one would you recommend an audience of mostly metalheads check out from the back catalog?
So in my back catalog, again, a lot of the records were just like there would be like one or
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 metal songs on it. There are 2 other fully metal. I'm gonna have to get into some long storytelling here. Is that
That's
cool?
fine.
Okay.
It's always fine.
Okay. So the way I started playing around in doom metal because I had done the folk and the punk thing and I got kind of bored of that and I'm like I like so much other music, I want to do other things. So I started with hip hop because it was the easiest because I could just like you can just get free beats on the internet and then like rap over them. So I didn't have to worry about making music. And then I started making my own beats and then I started making industrial music and that was fun. And I put at the beginning of 2020, I put out a hip hop / industrial record that I spent like 2 years working on. And it was digging up a lot of like really, really dark memories for me. And when I was done with the record, I was like, that's it. I'm taking a year off of making music. I need to fucking heal. That's it. And then the world shut down and the gym shut down. And that's where I went instead of making music was I would go work out. And part of COVID happening and the world shutting down was a lot of people started bringing up stuff about like the Black Plague and plague doctors started being everywhere. And I was a butcher at the time. So I was, out working every day and I worked at the Whole Foods right outside of Central Square. And after work, I would like light up a joint, walk through empty Central Square, go to the dispensary, get my weed to get me through the horrors and go home. And one day I was doing my joint walk to the dispensary and I just had this idea in my head that, you know, plague doctors, like there's like two different schools of thought on why they filled the mask with flowers. Some people say it's because they believed it would save them from the medicine. Other people from the disease. Other people said that it was just to cover the smell of the rotting bodies. I liked the idea that it was that they thought it was saving them from the disease. And I was like, I'm kind of like me smoking this joint, walking through this world that I'm terrified of. I'm kind of like if a plague doctor had a bong hanging from the end of his mask. So then I hit up my tattoo artist who was out of work because of the pandemic. And I said, hey, draw me a plague doctor with a fucking bong hanging from his face. And she drew the picture. I posted it on the internet. And again, Aria from Coffin Salesman hits me up and he's like, yo, is that like album art or something? And I was like, no, I'm taking a break from music, whatever. But also the pandemic was what got me really into doom metal, because just like the sound of like the fuzzy guitars made them like more sense than they ever had in that time period. And of course, the sense of impending doom. And then I had that moment where I was like, I like this, so I want to do it. And I wrote a song about a plague doctor with the bong hanging from his mask. And eventually he became like my mascot. So if you look at all my records from 2020, he's on every album cover. And I had the song about him, and then I had a couple other doom metal songs. And then I started writing more songs that he was a character in. And I made an album called The Mask of the Green Death, because I've always been obsessed with The Mask of the Red Death. And it was around the time that people started, being like, fuck it, and having house parties again and like all this shit, which is basically the plot of The Mask of the Red Death. And I was like, what if I wrote like a metal opera, like not a rock opera, but a metal opera about Mask of the Red Death, but in COVID times. So I did. So there's like a hair metal song on there, a black metal song, a death metal song, and then doom. So that one, Mask of the Green Death, I definitely suggest checking out if you're into metal. And then when the world opened back up and everything was kind of settling, and I had stopped my like run of charity records because I was just out of ideas, I realized that throughout the songs where I talk about Dr. Plague Thumb, which was his name, by the way, Dr. Plague Thumb, I realized that there was kind of a story to him. Because when I was working on those records, I was also making my way through Stephen King's Dark Tower series. Which, by the way, I was listening to The Stand on audiobook the day that my store flooded with people buying their shit because they were being sent home from work and told to quarantine. So I'm like listening to a book about a fucking a disease causing an apocalypse, and I'm witnessing it, and I'm like, oh my God. So like that shit kind of like was poking its way into my music, and I was like, I need to fill in the gaps. So I made another record in 2021 called Extremely Irrevocably, and that kind of ties everything all together, and that's a complete metal album front to back. And when I do my solo shows where I play my metal songs, I take all the songs from throughout 2020 and that record, and I piece them together in like story order, and I like talk a little bit in between the songs to like fill in the gaps, bring a little bring a little comedy to it, because again, everything I do has to be a little cartoony. And that to me altogether is like my magnum opus, like that right there, because I created this story without really trying. It just was how the pieces fell into place. And when I decided that I was going to do this year, I was going to repeat myself and do monthly charity EPs. You kind of forget how things really happen. You do your own little revisionist history, rose-colored glasses. In my head, I was like, okay, come up with a new character and just write records about him, and we'll do this. And I was going to go for this whole sci-fi thing, because I was like, what if I wrote about this guy who got, it was when Trump and Musk were still fucking friends. So like, I was like, what if Elon Musk like forces him to, terraform Mars for him? And I come up with all these things, but that's not how I write shit. I don't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do this story and I'm going to make it happen. What I do is I write, and then a story kind of emerges. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, so the shorter answer to your question, Mask of the Green Death and Extremely Irrevocably are my two like full metal albums before Dead Resin.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess one final question. What's a music genre you think a lot of rock and metal listeners are overlooking?
I honestly think that really, truly, new metal.
Okay.
I think, so I've, it is part of being a juggalo, but I've also just been an unabashed fan of new metal since its inception. I've worn pants that fit me probably twice in life. Like I've, people used to shit on me for years about it, but it was always, that was me. This is who I am. And it's having, over the past 5 years or so, it's started to have a little bit of a resurgence, and people are like looking at it in a different light, and people are being like, Limp Bizkit was just a party band. Limp Bizkit was no different than Motley Crue was in the 80s, right? And shit like that. And people are starting to like it again. And I go to Korn shows and I see people who used to make fun of me, and I'm like, that's cool. You learned, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. I think if people in general can let go of this idea that they can only really enjoy one type of music. And I think that's mostly gone. Everybody's like, oh, my Spotify's so confused because I listen to sea shanties and then fucking, drop it like it's hot, right? And then I go listen to fucking Paradise Lost, right? Like, but I do still see people that you see in their face, they kind of hit a wall when they're faced with something that isn't the thing that they associate their tastes with. Mm-hmm. And I think if you just open up, you can find something to like in any type of music, as long as it isn't post 9/11 country. That is the only genre that I will never find anything to enjoy in. I hate psychobilly, but I like a couple psychobilly songs. I hated that era of like Moldy Peaches, like kind of talking, kind of singing, ukulele folk music that was happening. But over the years, I've learned I like a couple of those songs. If you can just let go, mm-hmm. you can find something to love in any type of music. That doesn't mean you're going to love every band. I'm not saying everybody should, fucking just throw away what their taste is. But I'm telling you that every genre of music will match your taste at some point, will meet you halfway somewhere.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point about new metal because I also was one of those people who made fun of new metal kids. But
Yeah,
maturing is realizing that Korn, especially early Korn, was actually like just top tier weird noise rock. Like
exactly.
literally some of the most unsettling music you
Yeah,
can find.
yeah. And it's
Like
lit.
if is it real metal? Is it not? I don't know.
I don't fucking care at this point.
Yeah.
which, was, but I do, there was a time when that was important to me. And
Mhm.
I hung out with other metalheads. And again, like we said at the top of this, like being into more than one type of music was the quickest way to lose friends when you were a kid. But I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, but like, listen, like actually listen, like, how can you deny that riff? Right? Like, maybe you don't like that he's singing about how he got made fun of in school. Maybe you don't like his voice at all, but come the fuck on. That guitar right there, it does something to you. And they're like, nope. And I'm like, all
Yeah,
right, fine.
I think what helped me a lot, I started following the crazy ass moments in new metal account like on Twitter,
Oh,
ironically. But then
uh-huh.
it made me realize that there is something like, all this Y2K nostalgia like keeps threatening to come back.
Hmm.
And there is something like very of the time about new metal.
Yeah.
And there are a lot and like yeah, it was very formative to a lot of people.
Hmm.
It is kind of funny to look back on, but also, I guess kind of cool with some hindsight.
Exactly. And
Enough distance.
yeah. Yeah. And like, um, there's, it is a path where you start doing something ironically and then it becomes real.
Yeah.
Every like part of this Y2K thing coming back, right? People started ironically posting Creed on Instagram, but now they listen to Creed. They do it. They're not just like, oh, haha, funny. I took a picture with a white monster and fucking, Creed's playing in the background. No, they're drinking that white monster and they're listening to Creed. It's just, it happens. It's happened. I have friends that became juggalos, ironically. One of my closest juggalo friends who, when I met her, she was a metal snob, and I ran into her at Mayhem Fest the year that Slipknot was playing with Slayer and Motorhead. And she was there for Slayer and Motorhead. And she was all drunk and she's like, oh, Squallie, you gonna stick your fingers into your eyes, blah. And then she dated a juggalo and she started going to ICP shows and was like, oh my God, isn't this so funny, guys, blah, blah. And now she goes to the gathering I've never even been to the fucking gathering. I've been a juggalo since I was 12 years old. Never been to a fucking gathering. She goes every year. She's like, why aren't you here? She loves new metal now. And she still is like, she will still drop everything when fucking like, Satyricon comes to town and shit. But like, if they're not around, she's like, what's good in the whoop whoop world, And it's just, it happens.
Yeah. Um, no, the real final question is, are you going to Doom and Grill?
Maybe.
Okay.
It is definitely, it is a bucket list item.
Hmm.
I didn't get to go last year because, again, Arya from Coffin Salesman, his birthday is that weekend. And he actually, the day of the show, we planned a surprise birthday party for him. So I was at his surprise birthday party and obviously neither of us went. And I definitely want to go because it seems great. Um, and, I too fantasize one day about playing a show where people can buy a hot dog that I created. But,
Make a good enough impression. Maybe they'll
yeah,
maybe they'll invite you in.
maybe we'll
Yeah.
see. But also I don't want to lose. That's the thing, man, is I don't want to lose that. Like, no, you guys are you're amazing. I'm just enjoying myself. But at the same time, I also do like, I want to hang out with them. Like I would do that.
Hey, I was scared of Tears from a Grieving Heart at first too, but then I realized it'd be great to bring on the podcast, and now we're best buddies.
Fuck yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Anyways, any final thoughts?
Um, yeah, I just want to say, that like, I truly, you know, I might never hit a point where not even might. I most likely will never hit a point that I am, you know, as involved in the local metal scene as I was, you know, in my younger years in the punk scene. I am older. I am a homebody, and a lot of what I'm seeing, I'm just like, I just love seeing people doing their things, coming together in a community, whether I'm a part of it or not. It is something that is truly, truly special to me. So I've only listened to 2 episodes of your podcast. I listened to the Tears one and the Voodoo Sister one.
Okay.
And in the Voodoo Sister one, you guys talked a lot about the community, the Summer Gloom community. And like, you know, that is something that I'm just happy to see it. And I just hope that no matter how much time goes by, no matter what genre of music it is, that in this city that I love, there will always be communities brought together by a love of music, period.
No, that's a really, really touching way to end it. And it's what I want to do with this podcast. Like, I think I mean, I'm not a homebody. I do like I am a very I'm like an annoyingly involved person, but
the scene needs that. Every scene needs that.
But like, you know, this is also something like, you know, worst case scenario, I can't go to a show for whatever reason, like, you know, got hit by a car again.
Oh no.
And yeah, that's like a long time ago. Like hit by a car again, like ill for a while, had a kid, whatever. Like this is something I can still do from home, and I can promote something I really love. In a way that like not many people are.
Yeah.
At least not in Boston.
Yeah. I mean, so I have this friend, Trev. He has a podcast called the Struggling Artist Podcast. And he also like came up in the punk scene. So he mostly has like punk bands on there, but he'll talk to any band that wants to talk to him. And he's always like, you know, he's a little older than me. And he's also like never been musically inclined, but he's always loved music and he's loved these bands. And all the time he's like, I'm just so happy that like you guys are willing to, you know, come on this Zoom call with me and talk with me and like let me get these episodes for my podcast, like let me help you promote it. And I'm always like, dude, literally we fucking need you. And like this scene also needs you. Like every musician spent their fucking childhood sitting on the toilet pretending they were being interviewed by Kurt Loder or like some shit, right? And you know, when you're making music for the love of music, that's great, but part of you still wants to have that. You still want, you know, you want a fucking article written about your album or like whatever. Being involved as much as you are and as much as Trev is and providing this space for people is incredibly important. And you know, just like photographers are important. And like venue staff is important. There was a point in time in my life where I was trying to become a professional wrestler. And it didn't happen because I injured my spine twice. I had injured my spine twice before that, and that's why I wanted to become a wrestler, because I saw wrestlers falling down on purpose, and I was like, if I get as strong as them, I don't have to worry about falling down anymore, which then led to me being like, I want to be a wrestler. I actually played a show with a professional wrestler. He's a rapper on the side. And I opened up for him. And after the show, I was talking to him. I was like, man, look, I want to wrestle so bad. I don't think it's going to work out for me. And it upsets me. And he's like, listen, man, you might not be a wrestler, but we need refs. we need ticket takers. We need, people to work the merch booths. Like, if you love something that much and you can't be a part of it in like the main way, like the performer way, it's just as important, if not more so, that you like pick up one of those tasks and run with it. And that's exactly what being a music journalist, music podcaster, all that shit is.